My name is Simon James. I'm Professor of Victorian Literature in the English department at Durham University, and I've been asked to talk to you about why Christmas was so important to Charles Dickens, and to talk particularly about Dickens's wonderful book, A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol is such a well-known story. It's been adapted for the television, it's been adapted for the theatre, it's been adapted for the cinema, but as an English professor, of course, I would say to all of you, you should go and read the book, because it is a wonderful book. Christmas was so important for Dickens because it combines a number of the subjects which really fired his imagination. Dickens was not only very invested imaginatively in Christmas, he also thought a lot about the passing of time. The passing of time is one of the great themes of his novels, and of course Dickens is a writer who was very interested in ideas of childhood as well too, and all of these themes interplay in A Christmas Carol. The work that I'm doing on Dickens at the moment is on Dickens's representations of memory, and that's why I'm drawn to A Christmas Carol, because Christmas, very much for Dickens, is a time to remember, and time again in his writing he comes back to Christmas as being an occasion for memory. Christmas in Dickens's work is a reminder that time is not only linear, it follows year after year as we grow older, as 1843 gives way to 1844 and so on, but time is also cyclical. Time moves in a circle as the seasons succeed one another, and summer will be followed by summer the next year and by winter after that. And very often in Dickens, Christmas is an occasion for remembering that time is both linear and cyclical. Christmas, as Bob Cratchit reminds Scrooge, only comes once a year, and therefore so often in Dickens Christmas is a time for taking stock. In Dickens's very first novel, The Pickwick Papers, he writes, "How many old recollections and how many dormant sympathies does Christmas time awaken?" In another one of his Christmas books, The Haunted Man, he writes of Christmas as being a time in which, of all times in the year, the memory of every remedial sorrow, wrong and trouble in the world around us should be active with us, not less than our own experiences. It's a little bit surprising, isn't it? Because one thinks of Christmas as being a happy time and a time for celebration, but also in Dickens it's also very important that you should think about other people at Christmas, that you should think about your past, that you should think about your families, and you should think about the poor as well too. For Dickens, it's impossible for you to be a happy person or even to be a mentally healthy person unless you can remember what it was like to have been a child. For Dickens, it's really important that you keep in touch with your childhood memories, and there's very much a connection in Dickens between your capacity to sympathise with other people and your capacity to remember. In The Haunted Man, Dickens's later Christmas book, the main character, Redlaw, asks to have all of his unhappy memories taken away from him, and he finds that when he has his memories taken away, he is unable to feel sorry for other people. He asks the spirit in that story to give him all his unhappy memories back so that he is able to feel again. And this, of course, is what's staged in A Christmas Carol. Scrooge has forgotten how to remember, if you like, and this is what makes him the skinflint and the terrible person that he is. Scrooge seems to have forgotten the cyclical nature of time. He says to his nephew, "What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older but not an hour richer, a time for balancing your books and having every item in them through a round dozen of months presented dead against you." Scrooge gets the chance to rebuild his identity, to rebuild his personality, through having his memories staged for him by the ghost, particularly, of course, the ghost of Christmas past. If you think about the nature of one's own identity or self or personality, so much of what we believe ourselves or think ourselves to be is made up from our memories, that if you have no memory, can you be said to have an identity, to have a personality? So in the first vision, Scrooge gets put in touch again with his own memories of his personal past. In the second vision, Scrooge is given the chance to sympathise with people again, to encounter fellow feeling, to extend charity and sympathy and love towards the Cratchits, and also to think about the poor. Sometimes when A Christmas Carol is dramatised for the screen, these versions leave out poverty and want, who are the two children that huddle beneath the cloak of the ghost of Christmas Present. But it's very important, they're a very important part of the story, because for Dickens, Christmas is a time when we should remember the poor, in particular to think about poor children. Now, the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein says that death is not an event in life. We do not live to experience death. But Scrooge, of course, is the exception, because in the third vision, he gets to experience the consequences of his own death. Now, the narrative holds just short of Scrooge seeing his own corpse, but he does see his own name on a gravestone, and he sees the future possibility of his corpse being robbed and his death being unmourned. So the visions give Scrooge a chance to rebuild his future. He is put in touch with his past. He's given the opportunity to feel sympathy again, and he becomes a kinder and a warmer and a better person as a result of having these visions. He declares in the end that I am not the man I was. I will live in the past, the present and the future. At the beginning of the story, as Dickens sees it, Scrooge doesn't have the proper relationship with time. He's not in touch with his own memories, he doesn't remember what it's like to be a child, and as a result, he doesn't feel sympathy for other people. Having been given the three visions by the three ghosts, Scrooge has an opportunity to remake his personality, to become a better person, to become a warmer and a kinder person. The book concludes, "He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge." May that truly be said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. Thank you.